We are seeing a massive wave of homeowners looking to build secondary living spaces in their backyards, whether it's to house aging parents or create a new stream of rental income. If you run a quick search online, generic budget calculators will tell you that you can get one of these units built for around $100,000. But when you actually call a licensed contractor here in Pinellas County, the quotes come back drastically higher. That massive gap leaves a lot of families paralyzed, wondering if they are being taken advantage of. This table compares the internet myth against the actual market data. In Tampa Bay, a secondary dwelling unit will run anywhere from $55,000 for the most basic remodel all the way past $725,000 for a complex, elevated build on the coast. The discrepancy exists because a true accessory dwelling unit in Florida must meet the same structural engineering standards as a primary residence. These units require full-scale load path calculations and fire-rated assemblies that are absent from generic estimates. To ground this in reality, let's look at a baseline for a premium multi-use structure being built in 2026. We recently completed a project in Clearwater that came in at exactly $479,166. This breakdown shows exactly what nearly $500,000 buys. It includes 750 square feet of dedicated living space, a fully integrated two-car garage, a 400 square foot screen enclosure, and custom accessibility features like a zero-entry shower. That leaves us with the real question: why does local construction cost this much, and which specific structural decisions can you control to pull that number down? You have to understand the specific variables driving construction costs in this specific region. Without that context, you risk blowing out your budget before you even break ground. The absolute floor of your budget is established on day one by the structural path you select. The lowest structural tier is a garage conversion. Because you are utilizing the existing foundation, walls, and roof, your financial exposure is generally capped at roughly $135,000. On the opposite end of the spectrum is the detached ADU. This path requires a completely new foundation, new framing, a new roof, and entirely separate utility lines trenched through the yard. This chart shows the massive base cost jump between those two paths. Moving from a conversion to a mid-tier detached structure requires a minimum upfront premium of around $130,000. That extra $130,000 pays for distinct functional advantages. A standalone structure gives you independent utility meters, complete privacy for a tenant, and the highest potential lift to your property's overall appraisal value. Deciding to build a detached unit triggers an entirely different, highly regulated tier of construction. You're building a new house from scratch. Once you choose a detached structure, you are immediately forced to deal with an inescapable geographic reality. Tampa Bay sits directly inside a 140 to 160 mile-per-hour design wind zone. Building in this zone mandates specific hurricane tie-down hardware on every connection, impact-rated glazing on every window, and strict state product approvals for every material used. This structural diagram highlights required stress points, adding an 8 to 12% shell cost premium. Additionally, in designated AE or V flood zones, the county forces you to abandon standard slabs and elevate the entire structure onto structural piers. Meeting those elevation requirements can increase the shell budget by $80,000 before you drive a single nail into the framing.
Beyond the weather, the physical layout of your dirt acts as a hidden multiplier for labor costs. We have to look at lot access and utility distance. Placing a new structure deep in a long backyard requires extensive trenching to pull new sewer tops, fresh water lines, and heavy electrical conduits all the way from the street. Every 50 feet of trenching adds real dollars to the plumbing and electrical trades. The invisible factors hiding beneath the ground and the strict engineering codes enforced inside the walls lock in the bulk of your budget long before you even start looking at interior paint or cabinet finishes. We can see exactly where the money actually goes by tracking every dollar through the 4 distinct phases of a construction project. This chart breaks down a typical build into 4 phases. Notice that foundation and shell is the largest cash sink. Pouring concrete, framing walls, and sealing the roof easily consumes up to 50% of the entire budget. Now look at Phase 1, Design and Permits. This is the area where you actually have leverage to reduce costs through vendor consolidation. Hiring an independent architect, a separate structural engineer, and a third-party general contractor means paying 3 different profit margins. Using an integrated design-build firm, where all those professionals share one roof, strips those compounding markups out of the budget. On the $479,000 Clearwater case study we discussed earlier, using an in-house team shrank the Phase 1 cost from a typical 18% down to just 2% of the final bill. Bundling these services limits your ability to bid out completed blueprints to multiple builders, but it eliminates third-party consultant fees, cross-communication errors, and the costly handoff delays that inevitably happen between separate firms. The path to a successful build requires matching your specific financial constraints and the physical limits of your lot to the correct structural tier. First, you have to acknowledge the non-negotiable baselines. Municipal impact fees for parks, schools, and utilities can reach up to $12,000 in Pinellas County, and you cannot out-negotiate the city on those costs. This scorecard maps out the distinct paths for 3 different types of homeowners in this market. If you are budget and space constrained, specifically working with a lot under 6,000 square feet, you need to abandon the idea of a detached unit. Execute a garage conversion. Avoiding a new foundation and a new roof allows you to cap your costs near $135,000. If you are building for a multi-generational family, your priority is usually proximate living space for aging parents. Target an attached addition or a mid-tier build. Spend your budget on highly functional interior finishes, like a zero-entry shower or wider doorways, rather than blowing capital on an oversized structural footprint. Finally, if you are a yield investor looking for maximum rental income and maximum property appraisal value, you have to absorb the high upfront cost of a detached build. You need that standalone structure to secure independent tenant utility separation, which is a necessary operational expense to achieve maximum return on investment. Before sketching a single blueprint or committing a dollar to construction, the buildable area must be defined by the actual geography of the lot. You must secure a professional site survey. Verifying your exact flood zone, your setback limits, and your utility distances is the absolute prerequisite to any financial commitment.